Hello. Welcome. Having a great day this morning here at the HQ. It's actually my first Facebook Live. Many of you have been excited and waiting for this. And I dropped the phone. So sad. Who's watching today? Who we got? Jess Horton. What's up? So I have, I'm going to talk about today. It's 3 little things. Take a risk, learn, and then earn from that. Hello, brother Drake. How are you? So a lot of people recently have been talking about, I don't know where to start. I have an idea. I want more, but I don't know where to start. And it seems like they are looking for a specific answer. And I think a lot of times people mean really well and want certain things to happen, but the problem is the unknown is something that people are afraid of. And as our world is becoming one that is being more centric on people who are self-fulfilling or creating their own opportunities, you have to create that own kind of lifestyle. You have to create it from ground zero. And so think of it as an infant, and whether it's a business, whether it's an idea, whether it is a community, a concept, a new feature on a website, you have to start from ground zero. And I think a lot of people don't know where to start. They get frustrated when something doesn't work because they just did one little ounce of it. And I'm here to tell you today that one little thing might work once, but likely it's going to be a plethora of things. It's going to be a combination of a lot of things. It's going to be a combination of a lot of people doing a ton of different things to help you, and leveraging other brands, going out and taking the risk. And so let's say that you wanted to start a new business, and it was a business to... Jeremy, give me an idea. What's a business that you would start today?
Car transport service.
God, that's a hard one to start. All right, so...
You get a driver that drives across the country.
Oh, it's like Uber, Lyft, or...
No, like they take your car, you move across the country. Easy. Get on Craigslist, say I'll drive you.
Got it. I couldn't... All right, so... Nick, you're fine. So if you were trying to start this business, where would you start, right? So the idea, the concept, the premise is that I need my car to move across the country, correct? And where do I start? And so what I would do is leverage other people's, other markets, other platforms that are already existing. And I would start that by, like Jeremy said, going on Craigslist, going on OfferUp, finding places where people can move, and then using that to start the conversation. So I think a lot of people, and I think this is the key, is a lot of people try and create their own by not leveraging other things. And by leveraging other opportunities and creating relationships with people are ways that you can get there quicker. Maybe you wanted to open a makerspace, right? And so many of you guys know Bo from the makerspace. He and I are good friends. He, when he started, he went and came to an event that we had started. And the first thing he did was say, here are the things that I need. How can I how can I get all those things together? Or maybe I want to start a meetup. Where do I start with that? Well, first you probably need a space. Who are other people that already have spaces? And you can leverage their space. You can leverage those people to do it. Jeremy, you gave me a really tough first one. Thanks.
You're welcome. men.
Only when I have gel in my hair. I don't have the true Zack Miller on right now. That's why I'm only at 50%. Now, but if you guys have questions, true, in here, let me know. No, I got it. You're good. So, when starting anything new, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if you post it on Facebook, if that's going to be something of value. You don't know that if it's a tweet or a relationship with someone that you didn't know. I talk a lot about inventory of life and inventory of people. And so, I'm 32 years old now. How can I leverage the things that I have already done in my life, the people that I've already had in my life, to help me get a little bit closer? Right? So let's say that I was looking to get into the trucking industry, the port logistics industry. You know, I would say, who do I know in my life that knows port logistics and things like this? I'd probably call this guy pretty early on.
Hey,
What's your name?
my name's Brendan Tompkins, and I run a company called Port Technology Services, and we provide software and all sorts of things for the port and container logistics industry.
So we were just talking, Brendan,
Who are we talking to here?
Facebook Live. What I was saying is, you know, if I was looking to start a logistics port company, I would go through my inventory of people that I know in my life, and I would start reaching out to them because I already have a relationship with them, and they can probably help me get into connections with that. And so if I was looking at maybe starting a meetup around that, you know, I would maybe try and use you as an endorsement or an ambassador to say, hey, even if I'm not, you know, a quote-unquote expert at this thing yet, or I'm not known yet, because most of the time I think people in the community world talk about, oh, you know, I didn't realize this was going to be so hard, or I didn't know it was this. And I was like, well, it's a combination of all these things together.
Yeah.
And so how can you leverage relationships with you have with people? How old are you?
I'm 45.
All right, so you're 45, so you have 45 years of experience. I'm 32. A little bit
You know,
younger.
the one thing I would say to that, and this has become more and more apparent to me, you know, everybody talks about networking, and everybody says, you know, networking, I'm not that great at it or whatever. And networking is so much easier than a lot of people think. I mean, people think they've got to go, you know, they've got, you know, take people to coffee and you know, do all that
You
stuff.
can really hack the system too.
Yeah, I mean, it's so easy. Networking is there's, and you said this a long time ago, but there's one rule that I follow: never pass up an opportunity to tell somebody what you're doing. Never, and it doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah, tell the world.
You tell the world. Tell the guy in line at Starbucks when you're, and you'll never know where that stuff leads. And that's all networking. Just live your life as a billboard for what you're doing, and I really it just pays off. Tell your family, tell your friends, tell your
Tell the world.
uncles, tell the world.
Yeah. One other thing before you leave, Brendan, I was thinking of is a lot of people talk about Facebook, and they have Facebook events and how people can attend that, and they get excited about that, but then no one shows up, or they didn't do any exposure. And so, you know, the way I look at it is, no matter what it is, you really are going to have to bombard people with information. You are going to have to bombard people multiple times. Studies show that a sale does not happen until at least the 5th interaction, and sometimes it takes 20 interactions to get there. So, you know, and 88% of people quit after the second follow-up. So that means between steps 3 and 5, there's already things missed. So if you do that, it's higher. But here's what I think is interesting.
And also don't ever feel like just because you haven't heard from the people you've reached out to, that means no.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, you know, we're just so busy. Everybody's so busy. People do not wake up in the morning and think about you.
Where'd you get that quote? Because I thought of that this morning, and I was like, I feel like I've been saying that a lot.
I know.
But where did you hear that?
I think I thought I got it from you.
You might have.
I might have.
Chris Tillett, say hello to the world.
Hey.
I've not had my coffee yet, so I'm about to.
Yeah, you're about to
do that.
So what I was going to say is that another kind of like hack is that when you have an event, and look, let's just be honest. Let's say 100 people, you invite 100 people to go to the event, and 20 of them say they're going to go, 20 of them say they're not going to go, and then you have 60 that say they're interested, right? I would say that those interested folks are actually very interested. And what you can do is go on and have one-on-one conversations with them.
Oh, sure.
And say, hey,
Facebook lets you talk to anybody. You know, it doesn't matter if they're your friend or not. You can message anybody on Facebook, right?
And whether they answer or not, that's the thing. But I think what's great about it is you can then take that and say, hey, I saw that you're interested in XYZ event. I created XYZ event, and I'd love to answer any questions if you might have. Or can I tell you a little bit more about what we're doing, why I'm doing it? And then you make friends with these people. And I think it's something that a lot of people shy away from. And here's the thing. You got to take a risk, like the whiteboard said, right? You got to take a risk. You got to learn from that risk, right? Even if it won, right? Even if you win from the risk, and then figure out how to win and do it over and over and over again.
And, what I came out to tell you is that we were just notified of something cool with the creative company that I'm working with, and I was gonna mention if any of your folks are in an industry or trying to make money doing creative work. A lot of times creatives, I feel like, are the most humble people, and they always feel a little bit shy about getting out there and telling people what they do. And I think the whole creative industry is really going to be one of the only things we have left in 100 years when everything computers are doing everything else for us. So if you're creative, get over that. Tell people what you do. Don't be humble. Nobody's gonna think you're a jerk just for saying, hi, this is what I do. Can you listen? So
and if they are, move on to the next.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, we'll go get some coffee.
All right.
I know you need some coffee. Questions. Nick says, Facebook's interested in feature was a fantastic add to this network. Nothing better than seeing new events your friends are considering attending. Even going stronger into that, Nick, is really taking that to the next level and saying, I'm interested. You can find other people. A lot of the times it is friends that you're have a relationship with, and being able to leverage that. Billy, thanks for the tags of a couple of people. Brian, what do you mean some major keys of delegation when building a business? I'll wait to get that before I answer completely. But, I think in business, and this is hard depending on where you are in your stage, if capital isn't necessarily the easiest thing for you to get through, if capital is something that's scarce, you can't always do this. But if you suck at something, have someone else do it, right? So in 2015, last year, I decided that I wanted to find people to do the things that were really important for my business, to have other people do those things that I suck at. So whether that is an accountant doing all my bookkeeping, whether that is having someone pay the team, basically what all the design. So brought Dave on, all the things that are extremely necessary to a business. What are they, and what am I good at? And I think I should focus on the major things. So, obviously it's saying, okay, I'm going to be, the leader of the pack, but the leader of the pack just leads. He doesn't necessarily do everything. And so, I'm not a designer at all. And so if I wanted to have designs created, I knew that I would be wasting time doing that. I might be able to come up with like a high level conception of, I want an egg in Hatch. Right? Okay. But I'm not going to draw the egg, and then we're not going to have, like, in this case, the arrow going up. It's just, those are the things that we wouldn't do. All right, Brian, what is important to know when delegating teammates to do certain tasks? I think making people know that it's a team, right? And so think of the sports analogy is that if it's football, there's 11 players who play live, right? But it's a 53 team roster. There's a ton of coaches, I don't know how big an exact NFL team is, but my guess it's probably 50, 60, 500, 600 people when you get down to the sales team, the stadium team, all those things. But you only see 11 players a week. And of that, 22 adding offense and defense, and then, some of them is a crossover. So let's say that's 30 people play every week. How many of those people do you actually know? How many of those names do you know? Who is the starting center on your football team? I guarantee most people don't know that. They know the skilled positions. They know the quarterbacks, right? So who did Peyton Manning hand the ball off to in the Super Bowl? You might know that, but do you know who hiked him the ball? Do you know who snapped him the ball? Probably not. Every piece of these things is important, and even in the football world, think about how many people that you don't actually see on a day-to-day basis. You don't see everyone out there, but they're busting their tail, and every single piece of it is important. Whether it's a cook in a kitchen at McDonald's and maybe they're just cooking, all that stuff is important, and I think you have to treat everyone the same way, even if their role or their position isn't the one that everyone sees. Like it's got to be a well-oiled machine for all these things to work, and if they don't, they won't work. And so when you see someone quit or you see someone not give it their all on a specific play, what normally happens? Something goes wrong. And so you have to be able to assess the situation and then try and make it better. Because if you don't, what will happen is it won't work. What other questions do we have? Jess, do you have a question? You still watching, Jess? Nick, how are things going? Billy, you still watching? I didn't do my hair today. I know you guys are sad about that. Maybe I'll start doing these Facebook Lives every day. Am I actually this red? It's so weird. I haven't even been in the sun yet. But the key really, to life and to starting something new is understanding what you want to do, taking a risk, learning from the risk. And I think the key with learning, and I say this to all the companies that we work with, and we do it for our own too, is understand why you won and why you lost, right?
Never lose.
You can lose, Jeremy. You lost today.
Never lose.
With that hat, you lost, Jeremy. No, but understanding that even when you win, understand why you won. When you lose, understand why you lost. When you have a sales meeting, find out why you got the sale. When you got when you lost, find out why. You can't improve if you don't know what to do. And I think that's so important, and not enough people do it. And if you want I say this all the time, if you want an action to happen, you have to create that action. Nick, awesome. Best week of the year. That's what I'm talking about. John, what's struggling with you right now? What's keeping you up at night? How effective is taking surveys within your network? That's what Brian said. I think it depends. I think if you have, a group of people and you send out a survey that says, hey, fill out the survey, I think you can get some information out of it. Sometimes I think one-to-one meetings are far more important than polling everyone generally. I think it's all about what works and what doesn't. And also, when do you poll them, right? So let's say you just had an event. You said, well, how was the event? The fresher it is in their mind, the more likely you are to get the information that you want. If you have an event, what is today, Thursday, and then you don't poll people for 3 weeks, will they remember? Will they care? Will they even fill it out? So you're probably going to see a dramatic drop in the information. So as you're kind of putting together your playbook, that's something that maybe in your email the next day or kind of your recap to people, you could say, hey, thanks for coming. This is what we did. We'd love to know how we can get better and what was great and what was bad. Can you please take 14 seconds and fill out this survey? Is where I think you would get your best information. But you know, I think once you know your target, finding out what they're looking for can be done in a survey kind of way. It can be done a ton of different ways. Surveys work well for some people. Surveys work terribly for others. For us, they work well right after an event when we say, hey, how was this? How can we be better? But I can tell you we've lost a lot of money by doing surveys with people saying, us not understanding the information they're saying, or one of the reasons why we did the conference Drop Anchor was because a survey after event said, oh, hey, you kept doing this thing and you did this event Start Norfolk, you had great speakers, but I was too busy at the Start Norfolk part of it and couldn't go see the speakers. And so we create an event off of that information, and then basically that's not what people are looking for. Or we took that assumption and didn't have enough qualified information from it and ended up trying to produce something that ultimately did not work. Now, that information that we got was really good, I guess, but maybe we just didn't put it together in the right kind of way. And if we had done more extensive information with people, we probably would have had a better event. It's been 3 years now since we did that. Lost a lot of money, but tried. And so we learned that, I think from this, Brian, is that you can get really good information from people, but that doesn't mean that information from a qualified standpoint is going to result into something to the quantitativeness, if that's a word, that is needed. Meaning, just because one person said something or just because two people said something doesn't mean that means that you can take that and result that into a crazy multiplier. And so we tried saying, hey, people want this conference. We created this conference. We had 12 speakers. Had to pay them. You learn that when you pay someone, you sign a contract likely. If you don't, if you cancel the event, which we did, you still have to pay for those people, and that's not fun to see how much money you lose because you have to cancel something. But you learn from it. And so, we did a terrible job of marketing it. We did a terrible job of figuring out how many people we needed at it. And we just had crazy assumptions and said, oh, just because it worked on this, it's going to work on this other thing too. And so we took the assumptions that, just because something worked for Start Norfolk, well, that exact thing was going to work for this other event too. And I think you really have to understand what one thing is and what one thing else isn't. And just because something worked well for, like, the great example is, oh, well, Facebook does this, so I can too. Well, Facebook's 11 years old. They're, a $100 billion company. You're not, right? You don't have the assets and resources that they have. They took a risk. They learned from it and they won, and they continue to do it. And so you have to be yourself. You have to understand that, okay, the market might work for this thing, but they might have things that I don't have, so I have to be even more creative. And I think just a lot of times people don't necessarily know what, they hear one thing, but they're not necessarily evaluating what that thing is saying. Myron, thank you so much. So you have to understand what your market is saying. And just because the market says, oh, we should put a 7-Eleven on the corner, it doesn't mean that putting a 7-Eleven on the corner is right. And look, there's never going to be one exact method that works. And just because something worked doesn't mean that it can work again. I always use the analogy of, think of marketing, think of your company, think of the advertising that you're thinking as a bowl of spaghetti. You can have meatballs in it, sauce if you want Alfredo or whatever all those things are. What's the never-ending pasta bowl at Olive Garden? Sure, whatever you guys want. Just think of all those things. Take the bowl and throw it against the wall. See what sticks. Maybe it'll stick once. Maybe nothing will stick. And then I think you have to look at that and say, why didn't it work? And from that, you can say, okay, it didn't work because I actually didn't do any marketing, or it didn't work because I actually sucked at it, or a lot of different reasons. But maybe one of them did stick, and so maybe the meatball stuck, and that was the one thing. You say, okay, cool, this is interesting. Now I'll take that meatball again and throw it against the wall again, and see if it sticks again. then do it again, and then again, and then again, and then see if you can start seeing a trend. And so what I always tell people, and what we do at Hatch, is we don't know what's going to work, especially when we try something new. Like we did a job fair for the first time ever, I don't know, maybe a month ago. And people said, well, how many people are going to be there? I said, look, I could guess. I could tell you what we're doing and how we're trying to get people there. But I have no idea how many people are actually going to come to this event. And I would rather not give you a number, because if I do give you a number, what's going to happen when that number's wrong is I look like a schmuck. I look like a dumbass. So, I ran a half marathon about 1.5 years ago, and people said, what kind of time are you going to try and run? And I just kept saying, I don't know. I've never done this before. So you need to have a reference point first before you actually try and hit a specific goal. So do something first, then you have a reference point. And so, if my goal is to run, you don't even have a goal, I don't think, before you do something. So then do something the first time, then you have a reference point to go off of. So let's say, I ran the half marathon in 2 hours. That's not the time I did it in. But what did I do it in? So the first time I did it, it was 3 hours and 5 minutes. It was the most painful, hard thing I've ever done. And so so the first time I do it, it took me 3:05. So if I'm trying to do it again, what's my goal? 3:40, 3:04:59, right? A second quicker. And then again, and then again, and again. And so 2 years ago, we did our first State of the Startup community address. People said, how many people are going to want? So I don't know. It's the first time. So we get a reference point. I think we get 120 people. I don't remember how many. And the next year, we basically doubled that. And so we can say, okay, as long as we have this number here, our next goal is to make sure we hit that every single time. And so I think this is where people mess up, is because they say, how can I take a guess? Well, I don't think you should take a guess. I think you should do it first and then try and beat that every time. From a monetary standpoint, spend less money to get the result. And then from an action standpoint, if it's a process or 50 steps, then try and do it in 49 steps or just a little bit more money. This is Eric is about to do RevConf. See if he'll look. He's got RevConf going on, starting tonight, I think. Big conference for him. Nichols, Kevin Griffin, and they're taking a risk. They sold out 250 people because they understood the market and did those things. But they're making it happen, and so it's exciting to see that happen. Tracy, now you want Olive Garden. You're funny. I haven't been to Olive Garden in a long time. Does that apply to starting a business as well? How would surveys work before making a menu? Yeah, so Chef John, I think we've talked about this a lot, actually. So I think that in business or a menu, like you can create what you want, but ultimately if no one buys it, it doesn't really matter. That's Deanie. She's probably doesn't even know she's on TV. Oh, she's looking. If people don't want, let's say you want to create a barbecue thing, right? And people don't want barbecue, or they don't want it to be super spicy, you might have to adjust the menu a little bit so that people can, you can accommodate them. And so I think you should build your craft, but I think you should also figure out what people want. And so what you might find is that people are looking for a special thing on a special day, we talked about this before, at Costco, how they hand out the little piece of chicken when you're trying to introduce a new recipe or a new meal. Let people know what you're doing. Give them a little tease. You're at the shopping mall in the food court, and you got the Chinese restaurant trying to get you General Tso's chicken, and then you try, and you're like, oh, this is great, and then you buy it, right? So sometimes it's teasing people a little bit just to get them there so that you can get it. So, I don't necessarily think that you should survey people and say, what do you want on your menu? Because that could give you, again, a lot of crazy information. But when you're trying to I think it's more about the way that you distribute it and the process that you do of trying to get people to acquire a new taste for something or acquire something in a different way. So, but then you might, the survey could be there, like, learning about demographics and kind of food that they're looking for, maybe, or do you need kids meals? Do people care about desserts more than not? So I think there's some creative ways to get a survey done on there for a menu, but I would use a survey more of like, what's the most important thing in a restaurant? Is the experience? Is it the pricing? Is it the wait staff? Is it the ambiance? Is it all of those things? So I would use that survey more as from an experiential piece more than the menu piece, but definitely use like Nick saying he's a sucker for Sam's Club and Costco. Definitely use those kind of like fun little hacks to get people to try something new. Escargot. I don't even know what escargot is. What is? I can't remember. But I think it's seafood, isn't it? Snails. No, escargot is snails, I think. But so like, what? So maybe I don't want to try it because I don't like the name or I don't know what it is. But if you say, oh, this is compliments of the chef, or do you want to try this thing, maybe that's a way to get someone to try it. Snails. Yep. Never had it. John says in Fresno it's bacon, pork, and butter. It's funny. All right, let me answer a couple of these questions. So weird I can't see all of these. I wonder why not. I thought I could. Has this information been helpful for you guys? Would you like more of it? Customer feedback is so good to continual improvement. Surveys are good indicators is what people are wanting from your service or business. Tracy, I agree, but you have to understand that there's only a direct number of information that's coming from those. If you get 100% of the people to answer that, then yes, you can use that. But I don't always think that if you have 10 and 2 people fill it out, is that really an indication of 2%, 20% of those people? I've heard like in different cities that the only people that go to city council meetings to go talk are the people that complain. So is that saying that, is that a representation of everyone in the city is saying that I'm a complainer? Or that person represents the entire city? No. So you have to really understand, say, okay, this is a percentage of the people that feel this way, but it's not everyone. And so customer service is important. I think I think I learned this recently that the food provider of Chick-fil-A and McDonald's is the exact same thing, but the process and the customer experience is different. It goes really far when you say mad pleasure, and that's so important. So just understand that even when you get information, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the best information. And if you're incentivizing someone to do a survey too, like, oh, fill out this survey and we'll give you a free Kindle or we'll give you a free Xbox, like you're incentivizing someone to maybe give you false information because they really just want that thing. And so they might say, how likely are you to eat at this restaurant? 5 out of 5 for everything, because they just want the fucking Kindle or they just want the gift card or whatever. And so you have to understand sometimes that there is, a little bit of, it's a little sketchy to understand what everyone is saying. A great validator is cash. If someone pays you for something, then you know that they value it. Tracy, awesome, thank you. Chef, thank you. Nick, awesome. Keep up the good work. Myron, yep. So again, surveys can be important, but I think you have to really understand what every aspect of it. And so just use it as a glimmer of it. Here we go. Olson coming in. RevConf starting tonight. Facebook Live. How did you make RevConf work and Drop Banker didn't work for me?
Well, first of all, it comes down to the individuals involved, really. So
funny. No, we just talked about how Drop. Yeah. There it was.
Yeah.
There he is. Sold out, right?
Sold out.
250 people. First time you did it. Awesome job.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been a lot of work. So
you going over there now?
In a little bit. So we have a VIP dinner for our speakers and volunteers tonight.
I wasn't invited.
You are a VIP, just not a speaker or a volunteer. And then we kick it off bright and early tomorrow morning.
Well, congrats.
Thanks, man. Hey, thanks, Zach. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. You gonna be around for a while?
Yeah.
You living? All right.
I'll be in and out.
All right. Well, good luck. Yep. All right, guys. I'm gonna sign off for now. I'm gonna have a little quick talk with my buddy Eric. But if you guys found this useful, just feel free to share this with your networks. Would love to help you guys at all. And then hit me up on here as well if you guys have any other questions. Happy to answer those. Just hit me up in the messages. And again, like and share this with your networks if you felt that this was valuable information. And if there is something specific that you're looking for on my next Facebook Live, you just let me know and we'll use that as a reference point and start from there. But until then, peace. Thanks for watching, guys. Love you.